My fiancé blocked me on the morning of our wedding, leaving only a heartbreaking letter saying, "Sorry, here's how I discovered the truth. I, 27 female, first met my fiancé, 28 male, at a music festival. He was with his group of friends and I was with mine. We got to talking about our favorite musicians and bands, and before we both knew it, we had become friends. It was a week-long event, and I was having a hard time walking away from him because of how much I liked him. So, when he suggested that we stay together for the entirety of the festival, I immediately said yes. He sort of merged our group of friends and decided to attend all the events together as one big group. It was quite nice. We all had a lot in common with each other since we were all from the same city. It wasn't awkward or anything, and everyone seemed to enjoy themselves with a new group of friends that we had made. I had never believed in love at first sight before I met him. It was almost alarming to me how much I liked him and how much I wanted to spend time with him. I was dreading the end of the music festival because I knew I would have to say goodbye to him. I didn't want to freak him out by telling him how I was feeling because we had known each other for merely 5 days, so I kept my mouth shut. It turns out he was feeling the same way because he came up to me and said that he would hate not to see me again, and he too was dreading the end of the festival. I was a goner when he confessed that. I honestly could have cried. I told him that I would absolutely love to see him after this and that I was feeling the same way as him. We were both relieved after we established that there wouldn't be a goodbye at the end of that week. We all exchanged numbers, the whole group, because everyone wanted to hang out. After we went to the city, we also exchanged addresses, and while my fiancé's place was a little farther away from mine, some of his friends were closer to my place, so all in all, we both knew that it wouldn't be a hardship at all to find a way to stay in touch with each other. As soon as we went home from the festival, I received a call from him, and he asked me out on a date. I was so happy that he didn't even wait a few days before asking me out. We went on a few dates, and I was pleasantly surprised that the magic was not gone after the music festival, and we both still very much liked each other. A few dates turned into a lot more, and before we knew it, we were in a committed relationship. I had become more familiar with his friends too, as he had become with mine. We often hung out with each other's friends and places. Even though he had a huge group of friends, we often ended up hanging out with his best friend and his girlfriend. We went out on double dates with them a lot of times. I could see that the three of them were really close because they had all grown up together. They still never made me feel like an outsider. They welcomed me into their small circle with open arms. And because I knew it, it was the four of us who formed an inner circle of sorts, apart from all our other friends. It was so pleasant because I never had friends so close that they were almost family. His best friend had been with his girlfriend ever since their school days, and it was such a nice, wholesome little love story that I felt myself tear up when they told me. My fiancé, on the other hand, had grown humbled about being their third wheel all his life, and I burst out laughing. I had then assured him that he wouldn't be anyone's third wheel any longer. His eyes had shone with sincerity when he told me that he loved me, and I had repeated the same to him. I knew from the very beginning that he was the man I would spend my life with, so even though I thought we were going a little fast, I never really panicked about the big life decisions. We had moved in together after dating for 11 months. It was a first for me. I had never shared a home with any of my previous partners, but I jumped when he asked me and said yes immediately. I had this nagging voice in the back of my mind telling me that it was all going really fast and that I should put a stop to it. But I had paid it no mind. My fiancé's best friend and his girlfriend helped us move, and they were the first people we entertained in our new home. It was a cozy evening with just us and some takeout, but something had changed during the day. I didn't know what it was, but his best friend's girlfriend was acting all aloof. She was being unusually quiet, and I remember wondering if she was having problems in her relationship. She had barely said a word all night and seemed visibly sad. Even though we were great friends, I didn't urge her to confide in me since I was also friends with her boyfriend. I was sure she would talk to some of her friends who wouldn't be biased, since I knew she was uncomfortable. I decided to end the evening early, and they were on their way home before the clock even hit 9. I did ask my fiancé if he knew what was going on with them, but he didn't know anything. He assured me that it was probably nothing, and they would figure it out like they always do. They had been together for way too long to not figure it out, he said, and I believed him because he knew them way better than me. Things were a little hectic initially when we moved in, but after we got used to living together, it was beyond pleasant. I loved living with him. It brought me so much joy to do little everyday things like laundry or cooking with him. All my previous doubts about moving too fast were put to an end after we got comfortable living together. I knew we were going in the right direction, even if it had been a little quick. We had continued our double dates, opting for staying in instead of going out most of the time. His best friend's girlfriend hadn't seemed uncomfortable or sad after that initial day, so I guess they had sorted out whatever was bothering her. It was back to normal for the four of us. We grew even closer in the following months. I even invited her to a girls' night with my other friends. I knew that a proposal was coming way before my fiancé popped the question. We had talked about it a few times and decided that we were ready for it. It still made me cry when it happened, though. Of course I said yes. We told his best friend and his girlfriend, and they came over for dinner that day. He was super happy, but she was a little quiet. I started to think that maybe she had a problem with me, but then I realized how self-centered it sounded. Maybe she really had some problems and couldn't show her happiness to us. She did tell us congratulations, but she was not happy as I could tell. I thought about talking to her, but in the following days it slipped my mind. We told our parents, our other friends, and I got mixed up in the calls and messages from friends and family. After that, I was so excited to start the wedding prep that everything went to the back of my mind. I didn't even think that something might be going on behind my back that I should be aware of. I just trusted easily. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I didn't pay attention to something that was happening right in front of my eyes. I got too comfortable in my life because I thought I was safe, and my fiancé would never let anything happen to me. Boy, was I wrong about that. Between our proposal and the date we decided for our wedding, we didn't hang out much with his best friend and his girlfriend like we usually did. My fiancé told me that they were having relationship problems, so it was best that we didn't hang out with him for a while. I was busy with the wedding prep anyway, so I didn't have any problem with that. As our wedding day came near, my fiancé became a little distant, but he never confided in me. Whenever I asked him, I thought maybe he was nervous or had cold feet, so I let it go. He had assured me that he was completely all right and that I had nothing to worry about. I went back to wedding planning, and then my whole world turned upside down. On the day of my wedding, I was in the bridal suite all morning getting ready. We obviously weren't supposed to see each other, but I texted him, which I never got a reply to. I didn't think much of it, but as the ceremony came close, I was getting restless. I just wanted to hear his voice to calm myself down, so I called him and found that his phone was off. It was odd. Why would his phone be off right before our wedding? I texted him, and then saw that my texts weren't going through. I checked my phone and everything, and then I texted my friend who replied immediately, so my phone was working fine. I just couldn't understand what was going on, but I still didn't just jump to any conclusions. The red flag started flying when his best friend knocked on my door looking very distressed. I invited him in, but he was too silent for my liking. I asked him what was going on and why he looked like someone had run a car over him. He told me that my fiancé was gone. I actually laughed at his face because he sounded ridiculous. Why would my fiancé leave when we were supposed to be married in less than an hour? He told me to sit down. I sat, and then he handed me an envelope. I took it from him with shaky hands and opened it to find a letter. It was from my fiancé and was addressed to me and his best friend both. He sat next to me as we read it together. He started off by saying sorry like it would make it all better. He wrote that he had been in love with his best friend's girlfriend for a long time, and she finally accepted that there was something between them too, so they ran off together. He wrote how they were seeing each other behind our backs and made a pact to dump their respective partners to see where they could take their relationship. He wrote that they weren't going to act on the pact, but he couldn't go through with the wedding when he was in love with someone else. He couldn't do that to the actual love of his life. I had tears streaming down my face by this point. His best friend was sitting right next to me, holding my trembling body for comfort. He told me to flip the page, so I did. The pact was written on the back and there were 2 signatures. It was ridiculous that they actually wrote it down. It was the usual, that they couldn't live without each other, and it wouldn't have been right if they continued their previous relationships. The last sentence was the one that got me, though. They wrote that he thought me and his best friend would make a great couple and we should consider getting married instead, because he didn't want my wedding planning to go to waste. He also wrote that he didn't want us to suffer, so we could help each other through our breakup. The audacity of that man was astounding. I was heartbroken and helpless, but above all, I was enraged. He did this to me and had the gall to tell me that I should marry his best friend. He pulled this on our wedding day and then was trying to act like he cared about me and his best friend. I tried to call him again, but his best friend told me that he had blocked us both. I just didn't know what to do anymore. I mean, what can one do after their life turns into a daily soap? I just kept thinking back to all the times I suspected something and then let it go. Was it my foolishness that got the best of me? Should I have done something differently so my life wouldn't be a complete shambles? Update 1. I hibernated for almost 3 months after my wedding fiasco. I didn't want to face anyone. I felt so stupid. My friends mostly left me alone to lick my wounds. It was horrible. Heartbreak is horrible. I cried myself to sleep every night. I tried to call him again and again, but I was still blocked. I just wanted some answers. I was going crazy thinking that maybe I should have done something differently, and we wouldn't be here right now. I kept blaming myself because I didn't get any closure. He left without facing me like a coward. I didn't get to see what he was thinking while he was writing that godforsaken letter. Did he feel bad about dumping me like this? Or was he super happy so he started his new life with the actual love of his life? All these unanswered questions kept eating me alive until I was in complete isolation. I didn't pick up any calls from my family or friends. I even started skipping work because I couldn't get myself to concentrate on anything. It was honestly getting out of hand how awful I was feeling. Then, suddenly, one day, I went home from work to find my fiancé's best friend sitting on my porch. I didn't know what to do. We had been great friends for a while, but I hadn't seen him or talked to him since my wedding day. He asked to come in, so I let him in. He didn't push me to talk or anything. He just sat there and had coffee with me in comfortable silence. Even after that, he didn't bring up the elephant in the room. He simply told me that he was worried about me and how I was isolating myself. It wasn't healthy, and he insisted that we start our dinners or game nights again. It was such a ridiculous idea. We used to do that with them before they both betrayed us. He told me that we don't need anyone to have dinner and play some games. 2 people are enough. Maybe I was too lonely, or maybe he looked really lonely. I don't know what it was, but I ended up saying yes. It was time I started seeing him as my friend and not my fiancé's best friend. He was my friend, and I was allowed to have dinner with my friend, so that's what we did that night. We had dinner, played silly games, and didn't talk about the other 2. Update 2. Hi guys, to answer your questions, yes, I have become very close friends with my ex's ex-best friend. Wow, that is a mouthful. We had dinners and game nights for almost 6 months, just the 2 of us, before he finally asked me out on a date. I had started liking him, but I didn't know if he felt the same way, so I kept my mouth shut until he asked me as himself. I said yes to a date with him. He and I had become very close in the last 6 or so months because we understood what each other was going through. We were heartbroken together, and we sort of healed each other, and it was only natural that we moved on together too. We did hang out with our other friends, and none of them knew exactly what was going on with us. We were the only 2 people who fully understood. I was actually pretty happy that I was finally moving on, and that too with this great guy who had become a very close friend of mine. The whole broken engagement and getting stood up on my wedding day was an awful experience, and I didn't think I would be able to move on from it. I went to such a dark place after my ex-fiancé left me that I never thought I would ever be able to go out on a date like a normal person. We had talked about our exes in the last 6 months, and how it all affected us. There were a lot of fears. He confided in me too, how he lost both his girlfriend and friend in a day. It was almost chaotic for both of us to talk about it. Getting our feelings out in the open and sharing them with each other was what eventually helped us move on from them. He took me out to a nice dinner. I honestly thought it would be awkward, but it felt so natural. We had been having dinner together for a while, but switching from friendship to dating didn't feel forced at all. We were both so comfortable in each other's presence, and it was honestly the best date of my life. We ate and we laughed. It was perfect. He felt the same way too because he wanted to take me out again and was equally happy that we had found each other even after the chaos that was in our life not so long ago. Update 3. So, my ex contacted me, and also, I've made things official with my new boyfriend. So, we finally made it official. We didn't make it official until after we had been dating for almost 3 months. We didn't want to rush into anything like I did before with my ex-fiancé. I was kind of scared to have a boyfriend again after I had such a bad experience the last time, but he wore me down. I can't believe I used to see him as my ex-fiancé's best friend all this time while he was my friend too, and now he was my boyfriend. I was almost embarrassed that I didn't see him that way until he asked me out. I was actually really happy with my life. We were very far in the past. We worked through our problems together, so it wasn't creating any problems between us anymore. He even joked about how we made my ex-fiancé's wishes come true because he told us that we would make a great couple in his letter. We were at the point where we could laugh about our past. We were not heartbroken anymore, and I think both of us played a huge part in healing each other from the scars that our exes left. We told our friends and family too, and they were really happy for us. I couldn't have been happier even after what happened to us. And then it all came to a crashing halt when I got a call from my ex-fiancé. I had deleted his number after our breakup, so I didn't know who was calling. When I picked up, it was a shock to hear his voice after so long. I froze for a good 5 minutes before I got enough courage to pay attention to what he was saying. He was going on about how happy he was that I picked up his call, how much he missed me, and how sorry he was for leaving like that. I listened for a few minutes without saying anything, and then I hung up. I couldn't bring myself to say anything to him, and I didn't want to have a conversation with him anyway, so I cut the call before he could say anything else. After I got myself under control, I immediately called my boyfriend and told him everything. After I went home and saw my boyfriend, he too told me that he received a call from my ex-fiancé. He didn't talk to him either, he just hung up. I just didn't know why he was trying to barge into our lives again after all this time. I was finally happy. I didn't want his presence in our lives anymore, and it was making me anxious. Update 4. My boyfriend and I did talk about the phone call a few times. We didn't know what he wanted. Why was he calling us now after all of this? But, in the following weeks, we sort of got over that. He didn't call after that, so we thought maybe he got the hint that he didn't want anything to do with him. Then he showed up at my place out of nowhere. It was like a slap in the face when I saw him standing there looking hopeful. I didn't know what to say to him. He just stood there for a while before he finally said hi. Since I was taking a long time, my boyfriend came out to see what was keeping me. Then it got way more uncomfortable than before. My ex's expression went from hopeful to confused to painful in a matter of seconds. He figured out what was happening. What did he expect? I would be waiting for him to make an appearance? He asked if he could come in, and my boyfriend told him no. He was getting angry too, so I calmed him down. I cared about my boyfriend out of the two of them, and I didn't want him to get angry over my ex. I understood that he was his ex-best friend too, and his face brought back painful memories for him too. We took a moment to calm ourselves before we continued the conversation. My ex was still waiting for us to let him in, but I told him that we didn't want anything to do with him and that he should leave. I said that he was sorry for what he did, but he was back now. He was doing us a favor by being back. He left us both heartbroken, and now he wanted us to just forgive him for showing up. When he got that we wouldn't let him in, he started talking, standing at our door. He said that she left him. We got who she was. He told us that they couldn't make their relationship work, and he regrets leaving us both. He told us that he needed his friends back, and I reminded him that I wasn't his friend. He said that it was a mistake and he shouldn't have done that to us. My boyfriend could see how anxious and uncomfortable I was getting, so he stepped up. He told him that we were finally happy without dating, and my boyfriend told him, yes, he had the audacity to look hurt after that, like we had hurt him. We told him that we wanted him to leave and not call or text anymore. We weren't his friends, and we wouldn't ever be his friends in the future, so the best thing he could do for us now is to leave us alone. He got the message loud and clear after that, but he didn't let go of the chance of being nasty one last time. He told me that I didn't waste any chance to bag his best friend and move on fairly quickly for someone who was heartbroken. It was like he slapped me in the face. My boyfriend told him that at least one couple should adhere to his so-called pact, since the cheaters couldn't make it work. He told me that we were just playing by his rules. That shut him up, and he left with his head hung low.